Good morning, everyone. It's Lindsey Hellison back in the building with another SPS Monday Motivation. Hope you had a great weekend. I had a great weekend. It was a great time for everybody except Michigan fans. The Lions fans are happy. Michigan State fans are happy. The Michigan fans, look, ebbs and flows. You know, I'm always about positive psychology. Ebbs and flows. The team had great success, won that national championship, lost a lot of players. Some would argue there were some other things involved last season that's not happened this season. That's why the outcome is what it is. But at any rate, here we are, another SPS Monday Motivation. Really excited about today's Monday Motivation because of the historical context that's the basis for what I'm going to discuss. As I always tell you, my Monday motivations either come from my personal life or the headlines. In this case, I will say the headlines. I talked about Michigan State football. They had success over Maryland. Shout out to them. I'll be with Coach Jonathan Smith in a few hours talking about moving forward. And now PV is on the clock. That is Prairie View A&M. University at HBCU. That's right. Michigan State is playing at HBCU. And I can't help but think about the historical connection between Michigan State and the HBCUs because if you didn't know, Michigan State in the 60s, 1965 and 1966, was pretty much the HBCU of the North. That is when individuals like Jimmy Ray came from North Carolina and Bubby Smith came and played on these teams to be part of that national championship that was won because they could not play in the segregated South. If you see on the far right of the screen, that tall African-American gentleman is Bubba Smith. We've known him to go on and have a great career in the NFL, a great acting career, and those who are my age know about him playing his role as Hightower, Lieutenant Hightower in the Police Academy movies. But I want to talk about this concept of imposter syndrome. What it's like when you feel you're not adequate and how you overcome imposter syndrome. Let's talk about that. What is imposter syndrome? The fear that others will eventually uncover your perceived weakness and question your competence the same way you do. This fear is often associated with the tendency to misattribute hard-won successes to external, random, undeserved factors. You don't believe you're where you're supposed to be. Who do we have this morning? Get Michelle Mimi Watkins. Congratulations on your silver anniversary. You guys celebrating a great time. Shout out to you in Orlando. I love seeing the pictures that you guys had of your great trip to Vegas and all those other places. Great, great folks indeed. Michelle, we're talking about imposter syndrome, and I think this is a universal concept that's not talked about enough, and it has impact on everyone across the board. It doesn't discriminate based on gender. It doesn't discriminate based on age. It doesn't discriminate based on sexual orientation. Across the board, imposter syndrome is a thing, and I want to talk about that a little bit today as it relates to the context of Prairie View A&M, HBCU coming to town next Saturday, play Michigan State, and what that experience may have been like. I must say, shout out to Prairie View A&M. It's going to be a lot of alumni doing things in the city and beyond, but also shout out to my HBCU experience, Morehouse College. I went there as a freshman. It was just too much money for my mom as a single mom, but it was a great experience, and I have lifelong friends. Shout out to my roommate from high school, Bruce Brown, 321 representing. That's right, Morehouse College. We enjoyed that experience. But here we are now, guys, talking about imposter syndrome and how it plays a role. Speaking of which, got my mother this morning. Good morning, son. Mother, thank you. You did everything you could to get me down to Atlanta, Georgia at Morehouse College, that private school, paying $20,000 a year 20 plus years ago. And we were able to navigate successfully and get my degree from Western. Look at your son now working on his PhD. Thank you for that. But we're talking about this imposter syndrome and the impact it can have. Let's talk about the cycles of imposter syndrome. It starts with that fear of not being smart enough when you have a new opportunity. Then it goes to you work hard to prevent others from finding out how you feel, and then you do well, and you get the good grade, and you get the review, and things happen well, and then you get approval and positive praise. And then you start that cycle all over again. It's like every time you get a new role, I try to tell people there's always a learning curve. And sometimes with that learning curve, people can feel that they're not adequate, they're not ready. Or you got haters out there saying, man, why did he get that? Or why did she get that? Did she really deserve that? So there's a great article that talks about overcoming imposter syndrome by Ashley Abramson, and it was from the American Psychological Association. How to overcome imposter syndrome. And I think that's something important we talk about as we look at these images and what they look like. That feeling, am I really who they think I am? Look at that. To my African American sisters and women in the world, you're looking and you're saying, am I confused? Am I qualified? Am I good enough? Can I do it? There's self-doubt. Am I good enough? I can't. I'm overwhelmed. All these different things that are going on. And even across the board, the warning signs of imposter syndrome, over-apologizing, your lack of confidence, being overcome by fear and refusing the promotions and leadership opportunities. There was an opportunity in the Granholm administration for me to move on from doing her work as a law clerk to being the deputy director for legislative affairs, which was a great career move. But I was overwhelmed. I said, man, the legislature and all how that stuff work and how bills are passed and all that. And I'll never forget Tim Hughes, who's the director of legislative affairs, sat me down at lunch. He said, Lindsay, you got the personality for it. We can teach you the rest. And I think that's a very important thing to learn, because sometimes we talk ourselves out of opportunity because we feel that we just don't know, not knowing in many cases there's other parts of your skill set that will make you successful in that role. And then there's always going to be a learning curve. I've said that in many interviews of jobs that I've got, that, hey, there's going to be a learning curve. I know it's going to be a learning curve. I'm going to work, and you guys are going to support me to help that. And I think we miss that because we think we're supposed to get the new job and know everything about it and be right on point with it. Mason says, good morning, Lindsay. Appreciate you this morning. Checking in, saying good morning. Appreciate that. No doubt. But it's important, Mason, to keep in mind that don't let opportunities that are available for you, don't miss out on those because you feel you can't overcome that. Let's talk about some things that can help us overcome that imposter syndrome. And just think about this. I want to talk about this within the confines. Imagine Jimmy Ray, who was the quarterback that came from North Carolina in the 60s, from a small town of some 65,000, this whole town, to a campus at Michigan State of 45,000. His parents felt he could compete academically, but he was just so worried about fitting into this new world, leaving the segregated South. So imagine the imposter syndrome these individuals felt. But we're going to talk about how to overcome those and things to keep in mind. And overcoming imposter feelings, 7 strategies that can help with the time that we have. One is, you got to learn the facts. You got to learn that this is a real thing. Now check this out. This is really helpful. A hospital launched seminars because imposter feelings among new physicians are common and often lead to burnout. So you a new physician, you went to medical school. You're considered one of the brightest people in the land, and you have this imposter syndrome to the point where they had to put these seminars in place so people would not go into burnout mode because they were feeling they weren't worthy. So a physician who's gone to school all this time, considered the smartest person around, they were having these feelings. And also sharing your feelings. Now, the key point is you got to be strategic with all things who you share with. And the recommendations you can share with someone outside of your professional circle, meaning it's not someone at the job, but someone within your professional circle. Do you have a Michelle Mimi Watkins you can call upon? My mother, I can call upon. Some of my good friends, Dr. John Hagens, people I can call upon who are going to give me some good feedback about what's going on and say, hey, man, you're good. You can do this, man. Look at all the things you've done. Perfect example as we go, celebrate your successes. Remember your wins. Go back and go on that mental Rolodex and that mental ATM machine and pull out some of those wins. Those are the things that got you there. Too often we brush those things aside, and that's what they're talking about right here. People who struggle with imposter feelings tend to brush their successes aside, and that was from Orbe Austin. They said that they were a contributor to the article that we're talking about, and they said that only exacerbates the feelings. When you shut down your successes, when you don't go back and look at your highlight reel to remind yourself, I'm here because what I've been doing. I've been putting in work. I was able to get a call to be part of Rivals affiliate with Michigan State, Spartans Illustrated, and it was so cool of David Harn, who approached me and said, listen, man, I've looked at all your information, looked at your material, you'll be good for us, meaning you have things that you've done that's gotten you to the point where you can be able to move on to new opportunities. We got Nataki Villier in the building. Remembering your wins is a good one. That's important, and I know you know. Great connecting with you, Nataki. Looking forward to doing some other great things with you as well. But it's really important that we remember our wins because so many times we downplay that. And it's not about remembering your wins to be arrogant or to be overly confident. It's to be reminded, like, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. I want to make the best of that, no doubt. Also, too, another thing we have to look at is let go of perfectionism. I know it's hard. I know you want to do your best. I want to be perfect. But the paralysis analysis is real. So many times we get stuck and we're not able to move forward because we're looking for things to be perfect. And I think the only time I had a Monday motivation about this, the only time things are perfect is when you're dead, when you're gone. That's when everything sits right. But until then, there's always another hurdle. There's always another wrinkle, things that you can work through. So don't let perfectionism stop you because you're not perfect. Only one person was known to be perfect, and he had a heavenly Father, and you ain't Jesus, and neither am I. So don't be holding on to perfectionism. You don't have to lower your standard. I think that's important. This relates to a whole lot of things, if you get my feeling. You don't have to lower the bar, but adjusting your standards for success can make it easier, and you can see and internalize your accomplishments. Don't lower your bar. Don't lower it, but just look at it like, okay, let me make an adjustment to what's going on so I can realize there's success in what I've been able to do. Also, cultivate self-compassion. Are you really being self-compassionate? Because sometimes it won't come from external forces. It'll come from internal. You got to better be good to yourself. What do you need to do to get away? You need to go get a Klondike bar so you can relax a little bit. You need a spa treatment. You need to go walk outside, get some fresh air, whatever it may be. But you got to cultivate your own self-compassion and not be looking for people to be able to put you in that place, but you can do it for yourself. And then sharing your failures. We talked about, being able to do things as it relates to going forward, and also being able to be strategic in who you talk to. But sometimes when you talk to other people about things that didn't happen for you, you'd be surprised the feedback they give you. I'm not saying share your failures as a quid pro quo that people will give it right back to you, but I'm saying in the sense that putting it out there to be able to make sure you get some feedback. You could talk about the jobs you didn't get. I remember I applied for this job, I didn't get it. But it really worked out because I ended up getting this opportunity. Then people will be willing to share about different things. And that's important to know that I'm not the only one who didn't get the things that I wanted to happen. And last but not least, you got to accept it. One thing about this, and I'll say this as we wrap up, and I appreciate you guys for staying with me for this time. One thing about this is, it's talked about that imposter syndrome, there's a healthy portion of this. Because what it does is it forces us to go and check the boxes. Hey, did I take care of this? Am I on this? But the key is that you don't stay in that place. And it may happen every time you make a move and move up and there's a new opportunity. I talked to one of my new coaching friends, just got a new head coaching, a new assistant coach college position. Great position. Been working hard, well deserved. But I also share with that person, hey man, you're going to feel this feeling that you're not adequate, but you got to realize that there's a huge learning curve that you got to go through. And once you even go through that feeling of inadequacy, once you come back to center and get back right, that may come up another time. But the whole point is that you don't want to stay there. You don't want to go through this world believing that you're not, acceptable. But accept the fact that imposter syndrome is a real thing, and you can go through the steps we talked about to overcome it. If you need to be reminded about how tough it could be, imagine if you are on a campus in the 1960s at Michigan State, 45,000 people on campus, and you're one of the few African Americans, and you're playing on a football team. Imagine what that can feel like. But it's funny that the imposter syndrome led to a great outcome. I'm sure that bonded them individuals together. They wanted to play for their coach, the late great Hugh Duffy Doherty, and they end up winning national championships. There's something to be said about that. Well, I'm grateful to be able to come to you guys and share that. I hope this can be helpful for you going forward. Today is going to be a good day. Great things going on. Shout out to Michigan State. We'll be over there a little bit later. We've got some other things we'll be talking about later in the week. But I appreciate you guys. Appreciate your support. Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great month. Have a great year. And have a great life. Talk to you guys later. Peace.